I'm Reverend Dr. Frank T. Rubnick III. I'm the pastor at First Presbyterian Church here in Troy. Our church has a very proud legacy and history here in the city of Troy. We were established back in 1813, and since that time we've tried to be advocates for all. If you see behind me, we have a sign that says, "Everyone welcome." And that's been true since our founding, and it's as true today. We've been a very large part of the abolitionist movement, which we're going to talk about today, and we've tried to continue that importance and that emphasis on equality for everyone. The sanctuary here on this property, this building, was built in 1859 and completed in 1860. And so part of that time, almost from the very beginning, we were a station on the Underground Railroad. And many of our members were conductors, and our ministers at that time were fierce abolitionists. Now you can see behind me the entrance to the tunnel. In that entrance, that would be where the escaped slaves, or freedom seekers, as we like to call them, would enter our church and be safe. Come on down and I'll show you more. So beside me are some historical artifacts that were discovered inside our tunnel. On this side over here are animal bones and pottery, and these were used by individuals to eat, so it was food along their journey, and they've been tested, and that's what those were used for. Over here on this table, we see a picture of one of our members, one of the main conductors, John Milton McCampbell, who was a member during that time and then helped with that. Over here, you see these are Shackles Leg Irons that were worn by a freedom seeker. And so if you can imagine, these are very heavy, but if you can imagine walking such a far distance to get here to finally obtain freedom and then be rid of these shackles. Right above us is the sanctuary. And so the freedom seekers would be able to hear all of the sermons, all of the different things that were going on in that sanctuary during that time. I'd like to read you something from our denomination's minutes from our General Assembly that spoke about their views of slavery. "We consider the voluntary enslaving of one part of the human race by another as a gross violation of the most precious and sacred rights of human nature, as utterly inconsistent with the law of God, which requires us to love our neighbor as ourselves, and as totally irreconcilable with the spirit and principles of the gospel of Christ." The other thing I'd like to mention is not only was the Underground Railroad a good thing to do, certainly, but if you know your history, there was something called a fugitive slave law. And so that made it illegal to help escape slaves. And so people could be punished for time up in prison. I believe it was up to a year, and $1,000 fine, which equates to about $36,000 in today's money. But so people definitely did put themselves at risk, but they didn't have a problem doing it because they thought it was the right thing to do. Here's something else I'll mention here. "It is manifestly the duty of all Christians who enjoy the light of the present day, when the inconsistency of slavery, both with the dictates of humanity and religion, has been demonstrated, and is generally seen and acknowledged, to use their honest, earnest, and unwearied endeavors to correct the errors of former times, and as speedily as possible to efface this blot on our holy religion, and to obtain the complete abolition of slavery throughout Christendom, and if possible, throughout the world." That's what they believed then, and that is what we believe today. Right here, this is the hiding place. And even though it's called the Underground Railroad, much of it was not actually underground. It was just underground in the sense that it wasn't visible. But this here actually is underground. It's under the basement. It's in the basement. It's under the sanctuary. And you can see this is the tunnel where the freedom seekers walked. Now, for comparison's sake, I'm about 6'3", so I have to really hunch over to stay in here. And also, you have to remember, during that time period, they didn't have electricity back there. And so it would have been very dark. It probably would have been very cold, depending on the time of the year. But the darkness in there would have been wonderful compared to the darkness of slavery that they escaped. The other question that we often get here is how many freedom seekers were in this tunnel? How many passed through this station on the Underground Railroad? And the fact is we do not have an accurate answer for that. Because of the fugitive slave law, we did not keep accurate records during that time. We wanted to keep it confidential. We wanted to help as many people as possible. And so we didn't write down their names or take pictures or anything like that because it was illegal, and also for their protection as well. So we do know that we helped a lot of people seek freedom. We have the shackles, we have the historical evidence here behind me, we have what our denomination preached about at the time, we have what our specific members believed. And so if you take all of that evidence, it indicates a tremendous amount of wonderful things that our church did in regards to the Underground Railroad here. It's a wonderful legacy for this church, and it is a wonderful legacy for the city of Troy. So next time you're around, if you're in the area and you want to check it out in person, let me know. Thank you, and God bless.